Recording. We're not live. You don't have to worry.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Welcome to Unleashed. I am James Razile, and joining me today we have a very special guest. How would you like me to refer to you as? Misconduct?
Misconduct would be great.
Misconduct is here with me right now. Huge supporter of all things Star Wars on the interwebs and beyond. And beyond. You're actually I've got to thank you before we get into anything. You introduced me to you suggested to do a collaboration with Girls with Sabers, and we've done a couple now, and it's been a lot of fun. And we got Brock involved in that as well, so we're having a great time doing collaborations with them. And we're doing more in the future, just to let everybody know.
I love them. I watch all their videos and I think they're just amazing. I love Girls with Sabers. Anybody who hasn't seen them needs to go check them out.
Yes, but no more plugging other people's YouTube channels. No, just joking. They're great. Check them out. But we are going to do a lot more collaborating with them. Collaborating, I said that weird. But today is May the 4th. So May the 4th be with you, Misconduct. May the 4th be with you.
And may the fourth be with you always.
Thank you. We're going to talk, obviously, Star Wars. We're going to get into some Kylo Ren, or as you like to call it, Benlo Ren. Ben Solo. We're going to talk a little bit about him. But first, so that everybody knows your stance with Star Wars. You just found out about it a week and a half ago.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Let's go through a little bit about how you found like your first reactions to Star Wars and your first little bit of obsessions with it as a fan.
So I don't remember what my first reaction was because the first time I went to see a film in a theater was when I was about 2 years old, and it was A New Hope. My grandparents took all of us to go see it. But the
Wow.
first time I remember seeing the original A New Hope was on like the ABC Sunday Night Movie on television. And then my grandparents got me into it, like, because my grandfather loved Han Solo. Han Solo was his favorite character, and he's my favorite character.
Mine too.
Kylo kind of bumped him out of first place because now I think Kylo is like my favorite of all time now. But he loved Han Solo because he loved Old West movies, and he was kind of like the John Wayne type of a character to my grandfather. So he's the one who kind of like introduced me to it. And then the first Star Wars movie I saw in a theater that I can remember was Empire Strikes Back.
Oh wow. What
So
was that experience
yeah,
like?
that was like, I remember when when Vader said that he was Luke's father, I started crying, and I probably sounded like Luke going, "No, that can't be real."
It's impossible.
And people in the theater literally were like gasping and, oh my God, after the movie was over, I kept telling my mom, that can't be true, Mom. He can't be Luke's father. Because I always thought Darth Vader, when I was a little kid, I thought Darth Vader was a robot. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't realize there was supposed to be a man inside there. And I kept telling my mom, that's impossible. He's a robot. How can he be Luke's father? And my mom, she said something to me that, like, I've always carried with me about when I get invested in a story. And she said, baby, this is fiction, and they can do pretty much whatever they want with their story. And I remember, like, my brother and his friends, because he's about 4 years older than me, they have the same arguments now about Kylo that they had about Vader back in the day, because I remember my brother and his friends, um, they were like arguing over whether or not Darth Vader was lying to Luke. Like, my brother was telling his friends, no, he ain't lying. I believe he is his father. And his friends were like, no, he's lying just to manipulate Luke. It's this exact same argument. So
That's
it's
it.
really interesting to see how it's like evolved over time, and how it rhymes, and it not just rhymes in the story, but it rhymes with the fandom too.
Yeah, I that's an experience that the Vader I am your father is an experience that the Vader I'm your father, the no I am your father. Vader was not Vader's father. That was an experience that I never had. For me growing up, I don't know when I ever learned that. I feel like that was something that I just knew. It was probably playing with toys, and my dad was like, "Well, this is Luke's father," and blah blah. And so like I just never had that. And it's always for me. I love hearing stories about people who have experience that for the first time knowingly, like being conscious of that. And I was talking to a coworker of mine. He's watching his Star Wars with his daughter, and they finished New Hope, and they went into Empire. But in between, they watch it every day. So she went to school, and someone ruined it for her at school.
Oh.
And he goes, you know what? That ticked me off more than anything else. he's like, you could tell her whatever, but you took that moment away. I wanted that reaction. So it's always like, and I have, my nieces and nephew who they're not obsessed with Star Wars, but they know that Vader's Luke's father. Like they just know. So I just love hearing those stories, because I'm sure it was something that people couldn't stop talking about back when it was released.
It was, well, really big. In my family, like, it's a multi-generational thing. So we'll get into arguments about stuff with Star Wars. So it's like really kind of like the geek family. But I for myself, like, I'm gonna be honest, like, as far as the original trilogy goes, like, I loved it so much. Like my brother too, like he read all the books, and he would share with me, and we would talk about it. And then growing up, like, it's over. Like after Return of the Jedi, we were like, oh, it's over now. And my brother got into the books and stuff, and he's like, well, they still are continuing the story. And then it just kind of got like, oh, it's never coming back. We're not getting any more movies. And then when the prequels were announced, I was so excited, because when I saw Return of the Jedi, like, I even had feelings about, me and my brother used to argue about this too. At the end of Empire, like, they show how Leia has this connection to Luke. Yeah. And like I said, Han was my favorite character, and I wanted him with Princess Leia. And I would tell my brother, Leia's going to be his sister, and she's going to be a Jedi. Like in the next movie. So that was my little kid prediction.
Wow.
And then in Return of the Jedi, she was Luke's sister, but I was so wrong, because she did not turn into a Jedi. Because my brother kept telling me, well, girls can't be Jedis. And I'm like, why not? Why can't a girl be a Jedi?
That's such a boy thing to say. Like, girls can't be Jedi.
Like, yeah, right? He's not like that now.
No.
But he was like when we were little kids.
Yeah.
And, so when Return of the Jedi came out, I was right about this brother and sister thing, but I was wrong about her being a Jedi. And so for years, I used to, in my own head canon, think, well, who's their mother? Like, their mother must have been a Jedi. And I had this whole thing built up in my head about who their mom was, and that she was this Jedi, and that she was going to be killed in some accident, and that's why Anakin Skywalker turned on the Republic, and stuff like that was my headcanon. Wow. And then the prequels came out, and somebody showed me a picture before the movie came out of Padme, because I kept telling my friend, she's going to be a Jedi in the new movie. And my friend Mike, he looked at me and he goes, want to see a picture of Padme? And I said, who's Padme? And he's all, that's Luke and Leia's mom. And he showed me the picture. I was like, oh my God, she looks like a clown. I was like, what is this? And he's all, she's a politician. And I was like, no. So it like, I understand why when things don't go the way people want them to in the story, they feel betrayed. Because when I saw the prequels, I felt betrayed, because I just had this whole image for like almost 20 years built up in my head that, oh, she was going to be a Jedi. And she was going to be Anakin's equal and all this stuff, and she wasn't. She wasn't.
Intellectually, though.
Intellectually, she was probably his superior.
Yeah, that probably goes without saying. Yeah. It's funny what you said about your brother's point of view on it, because that's what I always bring up when people argue about Rey. We won't get into Rey Mary Sue talk, because I just don't want to talk about that. But
no.
but my thing with Rey is, and I've talked to you about this. It never clued into me on Rey. Like, I always I was like, whatever, fine, Rey's Rey. But it was the second or third time I saw the Force Awakens, and my dad was complaining about it. He's like, it's just the New Hope. And my sister, who's 3 years younger than me, but we played action figures together as kids. And she would, have for Ghostbusters, Janine, Ninja Turtles, April O'Neil. Like, it was like the worst characters you could get. But then she'd be like, I'm gonna be Leonardo, and I'm gonna like, and she's like, I'm gonna be, Dan Aykroyd. And like she would pick like those characters. She'd be like, I'm Ray and Leo, and I'm like, fine. And but it's but and at least Star Wars she had like Bouche Leia. Well, that was my favorite to her, but she at least had that. Like, but there was no like, there's no characters for her to look at heroically, really. And when the Force Awakens came out, my dad was complaining. She goes, I love that movie. My dad's like, why? It's the same. She goes, no. There's a kick-ass woman in it.
Yes.
and that was like the first time, because as growing up as a boy, I was like, that's a great point. And then I thought back to, she never had a female super, like, there was She-Ra and stuff like that, but like they were so rare. And in like the big ones, and I'm not gonna play with Barbie when I was a boy, and I'm not gonna and She-Ra, I would like get like the robots in She-Ra, but I'm not gonna get a She-Ra figure.
Right.
So she would be like, "Hey, I'll be April O'Neil today." I'm like, "You can't be in the party wagon just for turtles." And but so it's funny that boys have that mentality,
Yes, they do when they're little, but my brother's evolved, so
Yes.
he's really good about it now.
If only more would.
Yeah, right. I didn't like the prequels at all for the longest time, to the point where when the Force Awakens was announced, I was totally sour on it, and I told my husband, I said, I'm not going to see that movie. I don't even want to see a trailer. And my husband was like, why? You love Star Wars. And I said, because I want George to ruin it again for me. That's the way I felt about it, So I understand why people will feel that way when the story doesn't go their way. And what had happened was he said, come on, just come see it. And he said, John Boyega's in it. And here's a little tidbit. Like, I love John Boyega. He's in this little movie called Attack the Block.
Great movie.
And I love that movie. And his character in that movie is my favorite character. And I think he's such a phenomenal actor. So the only reason I went to go see it was because he showed me a screenshot of John Boyega holding the blue lightsaber. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And he said, and George not directing it or writing it this time. I said, he's not? He said, no, it's J.J. Abrams. So I said, okay, I'll go. So opening night, we went up to our local little theater, because I live in a very small town. And I was completely spoiler free. Like, I hadn't watched anything. I hadn't, nothing. And I kept watching the movie, and I kept thinking, like, she's the girl Jedi. She's the girl Jedi that I always wanted in the story. Like, that's her. And it was really exciting to me, her character, because of that. Like, there's somebody who, when I was a child, that's who I had always dreamed of being in the story. So for me, Rey means like a great deal. And then when Kylo is in the movie, a little bit of history with my love for him is that when I was a kid, I always used to talk to my brother about, I wonder what it would be like if Han Solo had the Force, man. Wouldn't that be cool? And my brother's like, Han Solo can't have the Force. I was like, but he's so like angry sometimes, and he would like do funny things with the Force, because whenever Han gets like in a tight spot, he always kind of like in the Death Star in the first movie when he's running through the hallway after the stormtroopers, stuff like that. So I would tell my brother, like, that'd be so cool. And then when I saw Kylo on the screen, and he's hitting the control panel with his lightsaber, and like he's doing all these little angry outbursts, and things that like I totally thought went to Han Solo with the Force when I first saw it in the theater. I was like, when I saw people on the internet talking about it after I saw the movie, like everybody's comparing him to Vader, and in my head I was like, no, he's like Han. He's like Han, but he's like dark side, and he's got the Force. So my brother actually made a joke about that. He's like, well, now we know what Han Solo would be like with the Force, would be dark side evil.
Yeah. Although Snoke does say that he has too much of his father's heart in him, so maybe Han would be a little bit nicer than Kylo.
Yeah, and that's to be on the more serious side, like, that's why he's like Han Solo, because Han Solo was always the scoundrel with the heart of gold, right?
Yeah. Well,
so that's why there's that struggle there, because of, like, at the beginning of The Force Awakens, when Lor San Tekka says, Like you can't deny the truth that is your family. You didn't come from this. This isn't you.
So let's actually go. Let's move on to Kylo now. Let's talk about that moment with Lor Santeca, because that's something that, aside from that moment in the Force Awakens, hasn't really been uh, expanded on too much. It's like you can't escape the truth that is your family, and then is that just to kind of tease us into finding out that he's Vader's grandson, that he's Leia's son, or is there more to that, and we are about to embark on the rest of that tale in The Rise of Skywalker? What do you think?
I honestly believe that they were setting him up for redemption from the very beginning because of that whole exchange between him and Lor Santeca at the beginning of the movie. And like I posted a comment on your video about why I feel so strong about his redemption, and it's
Yeah.
because, like you said in your other video, I'm a parent, and I feel for Leia. Like, you know that I love Raylo. Like, I'm a big Raylo fan.
Yeah.
But for me, if that part of the story doesn't ever happen, I'm okay with it. I really am. All I want really bad is to see him redeemed in the end, because I want that for my princess, you know?
Yeah, I
I
agree.
want that for her. Like
Yeah.
I in The Force Awakens, that sad moment where she's like, if you see our son, bring him home. Like, I feel that for her, because I deeply feel it for her. When you're raising kids and they're growing up, and they make mistakes in life, but you forgive, just like they're your children. Like, no matter what, you love them. And for her, I want him redeemed for her. It's not so much about, like, Raylo. I hope that the romantic aspect does happen, because that's a big part of Star Wars that I love, is the romantic aspect of it. But, like, I really, yeah, as a parent, like, as a mom, I really want Kylo Ren redeemed back to Ben Solo.
Do you think so? I got to play devil's advocate on everything now for this conversation to work. But I understand where you're coming from. I'm not a parent, but a lot of parents have the exact same feelings you do in that respect. But Kylo Ren, and this is where everyone starts their argument, killed Han Solo, killed his father. Is there any coming back from that? And how do you come back from that?
It depends on, like, for me, it depends on the intent, because that scene in The Force Awakens is so, I don't want to say, well, maybe a little bit, like, ambiguous. Like, I've heard people argue about, oh, Han ignited the lightsaber. I've heard people argue about, well, he just went ahead and sacrificed himself because he knew Ben didn't have another choice. The way I view that scene is he tells him, like, I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. I mean, he's standing there in front of God and everybody, and this person who's been, in my opinion, controlling and manipulating and abusing him, has this super weapon that he could destroy the whole galaxy with. Is going to find out how this all plays out. And to me, especially because in The Force Awakens, as soon as Han hits the planet, Kylo knows he's there.
Yeah.
And he's probably miles and miles away from him. So when he's walking through that corridor and he passes right by him, how can he not know he's there?
Yeah.
He knows he's there, but he's avoiding him. He doesn't want to do it. But then it's like when Han stops him, his body language, because Adam Driver, like, people have said it a million times, Adam Driver is such a great actor, because his body language, like, conveys, like, when he stops, it's like, shit. Like, now I'm in it. Why couldn't you just let me leave? Almost like, this was your cue to get out of here so that I don't have to do this. I kind of feel like he didn't want that confrontation. He didn't want to talk to him. He didn't want to have to kill him. I don't believe that he wanted to do that.
Do you think that
I
Han
believe
knew
that he
that?
felt cornered into it. Huh?
But do you think Han knew that Han was gonna die in that moment? Do you think Han Solo walked onto that bridge saying, "I'm going to go out here," because Leia says, "Bring our son back," and he knows the only way to bring his son back is for his son to to kill him, basically, and that will start this transition of Kylo back into Ben Solo somehow. I don't know how, but on some level.
I have I have heard that theory before from others. I don't know. That's an interesting point because it's like I said, it's like left so ambiguous. Does he know that that's getting ready to happen, or is he like hoping that he will just come home with him?
Yeah.
I lean towards I think he was hoping that he would just come home with him, but then in the middle of the conversation he realizes, oh, I've backed you into a corner. Oh, this is bad. This is a bad situation.
Snooky Snoke.
But that is an interesting point because I've never really thought about that. So thank you for bringing that up.
No problem. I was just thinking, like, The Last Jedi doesn't expand on that, but The Last Jedi also takes place in 18 hours right after those events. So there's no opportunity for that to be played upon, except, we do see Kylo and Rey team up together, and then he wants Rey to join him to rule the galaxy, much like his grandfather, much like Count Dooku before. So we see that play out all the time. But when he talks to his grandfather's helmet, what does he mean by "I want to finish what you started"? Is it just ruling the galaxy, or is it like that is a line that for me gets more and more curious.
That is the real question, isn't it, James? You know what? This goes back to my very first viewing of that film because when I was sitting in the theater and I saw him doing that, I was so pissed, and I even turned to my husband and I said, "This isn't right. This isn't there. I don't like this because, like, Vader turned good in the end. Like, why is he like talking to his helmet all creepy and weird? Like," and my husband's like, "Shut up, watch the movie." Something came to me as I was watching the film in the interrogation scene. At the end of the interrogation scene, she tells him, "You're afraid that you will never be as strong as Darth Vader," right?
Yeah.
And to me, that was such a huge foreshadowing that he's trying to be something that he's not.
Mm-hmm.
And the true strength, in my opinion, of Darth Vader in the original trilogy was that he turned away from the dark side and went back to the light. That was his greatest show of strength. I mean, even Yoda says that it can't be done, right? He says, once you travel down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. But Vader did it. And when she says that to him and the look on his face, I always felt like, oh, if he ever wants to be as strong as Grandpa, then he's going to have to give up the dark side and go back to the light because that was his greatest moment. So when he's talking to the mask, I always just kind of look at that scene as like, he's trying to be somebody that he's not. He's not Vader. Yeah. He's never going to be. But that's the point of the character. When we're children and we're growing up and stuff, we go through a stage. I'm a child development major. So I know that when kids are in their teenage years, which these films are geared towards children that age, YA, we put on different personalities to see which one fits the best, to figure out who we are, right? That's why kids do their punk hairdos and dress all weird and stuff when they're teenagers because they're trying to figure out who they are. And I see that as the same type of a thing. I connect it that way. Like Kylo still, like not Kylo, but Ben Solo still doesn't know who he is and what fits the best. So he's trying to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, and that, do you think we're going to learn that in Rise of Skywalker? Like, is there going to be a moment where it's going to click in with him and he'll say, because he said, "I know what I have to do," several times now, I believe. But we kind of get the feeling like he's got his foot on the ground, he understands it, and then something happens and he's not sure of himself anymore. So is the Rise of Skywalker going to be? Is it as much as we see? Because we get a lot of Rey in the trailer, but is this going to be the moment where Kylo Ren shines and comes through and becomes the character that he was always destined to be?
I believe it is. And I think it has more to do with his connection with his mother and than with anything else. I don't know how they're going to play that now that Carrie has passed. And I just want to say, like, when I found out about Peter the other day, I was so sad.
Yeah.
Like, I was so sad when I found out about Peter the other day. And I immediately texted my brother. I was like, "Oh my gosh, look, Bill." And I said, did you know about this? And he's like, no. And he started like almost getting like crying. I've only seen my brother like cry maybe like 3 times in my whole life. And because Chewie was his favorite character,
Yeah.
always. But like, I don't know how they're going to play that out because Carrie has passed on. I've always felt like they've always said, oh, the third movie is going to be Leia's movie.
Yeah.
And JJ is such a genius with working around things, right? Like, he really is, in my opinion, really good at working around things and making things work in a story to fit how they need to get there. But I think she is going to play a huge role in him coming back, whether that's like Lando Calrissian like saying something to him, or Rey saying something to him that makes him really feel the relationship he had with his mother. Because
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just really curious how this plan of theirs to wrap things up, because you mentioned Lando, and I think it was one of the Aftermath books, we learned that Lando gave young Ben Solo a cape, and Lando's kind of been present in his life in a little bit, but he hasn't been in the movies. And Palpatine is back, and something is lining us up, and I'm really curious if they were like, well, Lando can't play a part because his role is X, right?
Right.
And that's what I'm curious about. And we have our episode 124 coming at 7:00 tonight. We deal with the possibility of Leia's death kind of being the catalyst for Kylo Ren to revert back into Ben Solo. We talk about that a little bit there.
I can't wait to listen to that. I can't wait. Oh, that's such a great topic. Is such a great topic.
For me, if Ben Solo is going to come back, he needs this huge event in his life. Something monstrous needs to occur, and I mean, it could just be Sheevy P coming back. It could be, it could just be like, oh, the Emperor's back. Well, I gotta go fight him now. Let's go. Because
oh my gosh, here's something really hilarious. Because I love to listen to Kevin Smith podcast, and he was talking about that, about Emperor Palpatine. Did you listen to it?
I haven't heard that one yet. No.
Oh my gosh, he made this joke about how did the Emperor survive? Like, they show the big piece of the Death Star on Endor or whatever the planet might be.
Yeah.
He goes, what was he doing? Running around in the shadows down there, surviving off eating Ewoks.
Oh my God, I would not watch that movie.
No, it was so hilarious.
Oh my God.
If you have a chance to listen to that, you should, because it was so funny. But
Rob listened to that when he told me about it. Not that part about it, because he probably knew it would make me cry.
Yeah, I love that's the only actors I've ever met from a Star Wars film is 2 of the Ewoks from Return of the Jedi.
Oh wow.
So those are the only 2 people I've ever met from a Star Wars movie.
The Ewoks
so
are
far.
The best, and the Ewoks are going to be the reason for Kylo Ren's Ben Solo's redemption. You heard it here first. We're calling it.
They're going to sit in a circle around him and sing Yub Nub.
Oh my God. They bring Yub Nub back.
Right.
I'm not going to get into it. I don't necessarily think that the ruins of the Death Star are going to end up being on Endor. I think they're going to make it a new planet, but I could be wrong. I want to see Endor. I love Endor. Don't get me wrong there either. See, I have an Endor mouse pad. You can't see it, but everybody watching can see my Endor mouse pad. You watch this later. Yeah, look, I think the Kylo Ren redemption is going to be something we're going to be talking about for a very long time. And before we leave, do you think it could be ambiguous?
So I think it shouldn't be ambiguous for whether or not he's back on the light side. If they could do that. I mean, like I said, this is their story. They can do pretty much whatever they want, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't get married to any kind of a headcanon.
Yeah.
But I think it's possible, but I don't think it would like make it a great story. In my opinion, for it to be a truly great story, I think he needs to be fully back on the light side, like with that little still element of darkness in him, because I love that side of him. But that's like why we relate to these characters, right? Because there's a little bit of them us, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like there's a little bit of them in us. Like I was telling somebody the other day, they were talking about Kylo Ren and Ben Solo are the same person. You can't separate the two. And I'm like, wait a second. It's like an alter ego, right?
Hmm.
I was like, Kylo is the dark side of Ben Solo. He just chose to name his, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, we all have that. We all make decisions every day. And that's why those characters are so relatable. They're on a much like less realistic scale. Like it's
Absolutely.
not, but we all make decisions in life, whether to be selfish or whether to be selfless.
And
So we all
it's
have that dark side in us. It's just most of us choose not to let it out
yeah.
like Kylo
Thank goodness.
does.
Well, we're gonna find out if he lets the light back in 7 months. Oh my gosh, such a long wait.
Yeah, it
It'll
is.
yeah, it'll be well. Then the summer's gonna be gone, so it's kind of like it's a I don't know. I just can we just get it now and like show me a rough cut just right now, and then I'll watch it again in December. I think we can all, we should all write a letter to Lucasfilm saying that I should get to watch a cut right now. And then,
I'll write that letter too.
thank you. Just everybody that's watching, if you could tell your friends and everybody, send it in.
JJ walks into his office and there's like piles and piles of mail everywhere.
And he's like, "Oh, we're having a bonfire tonight."
Yeah, right.
That would happen. All right, we'll have more talks about Ben Solo, about Star Wars, especially. We're gonna have a new audio podcast about Star Wars fandom coming up in June. You're gonna be a part of that, so it's gonna be a lot of fun. I know you're looking forward to the Rise of Skywalker, like the rest of us are. Do you want anybody to follow you on the social medias, or do you want to stay quiet in the shadows?
Well, most people like who follow Girls with Sabers know who I am.
Yes, I do.
But I'm on Twitter as Misconduct. I'm on Instagram, Misconduct75. And I'm Misconduct1 on YouTube.
Misconduct1 on YouTube. You'll see her comments in the comments below on many a video on this channel and Girls with Sabers. Thanks for joining me on this episode, the May the 4th episode of Unleashed. This has been a lot of fun.
May the 4th be with you always.
And may the 4th be with you. And everybody watching, as always, may the 4th of others be with you.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.